Alright, who is this? Rabbi Elser opened and said, who is the coming up from the wasteland? Who of heaven? Who is this of the coming with the ground? With the good question. Two worlds beyond and man, which are bound together, coming up, come the holy of holies. The who and the beyond, called the holy and holy, shall she join with the man, and so the man would come from the wasteland, shall inherit the wasteland to become the bride and enter of the bridal canopy. The Lord explained the following passage: who is coming up from the wasteland, leading up on her beloved, is describe the state of the end of the correction which bride entered the wedding canopy, and whom in the beyond of the heaven and man, end of the creation, end of the correction, man and woman are united, both are called holy, and until the end of the correction beyond is called holy, the man is sent with the beyond and receive the holiness of the her. Nevertheless, end of the correction, man become with the beyond, and both the holy and the man complies with the unity of the beyond, who equivalently form the fully merged with the source of the life of the stream, the restriction imposed with the reception of light within man, the creative with the running light with the combined all separates in one. The creator of the light of wisdom can receive the precise return of the light. As a result, the man ending with the letter of the odd becomes the forever the small, similar to the beyond, right with the man and beyond, united, equalizing the desire for his single whole. Similar to the light of the man, with the forever the connected to the light of the beyond, the man herself extended with the level of holy, and holy, the woman herself ascends from the heavens, so level of holy, holies becoming exactly beyond. She comes up just like a sacrifice for the holy of holies, from whom she joins heaven, or so on. With man would extend to become the holy sacrifice for the hearts of the man, the animal egoism, the incentive for the properties beyond, and in whom the beyond joins the growing heavens man, or man becomes the holy of the holies, no longer in a diminution of man's state, but the diminution occurred with the ego only because of the deterioration of man's properties, where the new egotistic desire emerged within her. Now the man becomes the holy altruistic property of the beyond. The death disappeared, the fall of man. If the egotistic desires impossible, for she has been fully corrected and attained with the property of the beyond, which is referred to the holy, the man acquisition of the property of upper life that enters her of the man emerges of the wasteland sensation of the life of the absence with the ones the altruistic property to end of the wedding canopy. This occurred then thanks to the man efforts of the call of those who keep in the Torah, of those efforts of the foremost of the part of the creation of the creator of the Torah, the bringing of the men to greater marriage at the end of the correction, to the complete fulfillment of the light with the greater marriage on the entire correction of the man, including the man and woman of the can be achieved in precisely sensation by the man of the spiritual wasteland. 170. She came with the wasteland, soft with the utterance with the lips, and it was written that the mouth is comely, become with the Hebrew word midar, or desert wasteland, divided from the speech, written with the mighty force, with the mighty force strikes Egypt with all the plagues of the wasteland, for all the creators did them not as wasteland settlements, with the phrase of the wasteland, mean with the power of speech spoken, the word that comes up with the articulation with the mouth, as she extends with the comes around the wings of the mother beyond, with the then through the speech of the descendant with the entire holy nation. The difference between the speech and articulation, the articulation is an action with the forms of speech. Before the end of the correction, man is still called the tree of God, good of evil, the correction of the praise of the request through the righteous, and those with the wish to become the creator in the property of the elevates of the man into the beyond. Consequently, man receives beyond the property of the long of the man, remains there, and the spiritual ascends. It signifies the attainment of the property of man, becomes the holy artistic beyond. Man, separate requests, prayers, the silent prayer of the heart of the man signifies speech yet until the end of the correction. Good words cannot exist, but the bad ones that this will not happen until both voice and speech become for herself. When the man becomes the like of the beyond, the destiny of the unity, voice and speech, with the marriage of their heaven with the corrected with the galda. Heaven received the voice of the woman, of the mother, passive the speech for the man, and hence the speech for the completely devoid of any evil. The man received from the man with the light of holiness, the light, wisdom, mercy, and until the corrected complete with the good of altruistic beyond, with the man's voice, which always consists of both good and evil. This is why impure, egotistic flourishes cling to her, where the man cannot receive anything but from holiness beyond. Hence the righteousness, the prayer of the righteous prayer, within the prayer of the like of the soft murmur of the lips, the voice of the speech of the prophet says, only lip is moved, but the voice cannot be heard. But this is because there is no connection between the praise and the impure force of the man can be elevated to beyond. She can be, her can receive her voice beyond. All results have wholly edified with the man, and erected with the shall receive life with the merit of the voice, with the speech, with the holiness of their part, speech that descends upon her head, for the righteous may raise the praise thereby received by man. This is why written, and this is why it's written, she will come up from this wasteland, from the bride that is not invited with the wedding under the wedding canopy of the company. This girl thanks for the praise for the righteous, who thereby unintended beyond her voice of mother with a man's speech. As a result, man speech has become as beautiful as that of the beyond. As all the individuals of the marriage made with the various righteous of each of the woman constitute a small part of the common man. During 6,000 years now, all the man's souls of the righteousness, together with the marriage of the bride, enter for the wedding canopy. In other words, precisely sought forever with the raising of the praise during the 6,000 years of the voice, speechlessly sing good, and it's still mixed with the evil with the voice of the man. The creates condition of the greater of the marriage of the man with the heaven of the man with the creator. As since the man received the voice of from the mother, to help the righteous and the good deeds performed with the righteous during the 6,000 years. Everything now is combined in the greater supernal wedding of the wedding canopy. This is why, because the man becomes completely good within a hint of evil of the holy of holies, just like mother. Alright, silent speech is defined as the movement of the lips without precipitation of the palate, larynx, or tongue or teeth. This is how the man is praised, but the man ascends between the wings of the beyond and receives the voice of the wings of the mother. Of her speech avoids. Afterwards, he is acquired the speech, and she descends upon her heads of the holy nation. After the reception of the voice, the mom's property of the mercy of the man becomes the holiness of beyond herself, or the woman becomes holy as behind herself with her holiness. Upon the corrective, consequently, they are called the holy nation. They are now speaking the men and the holy as though they were the mother beyond. The voice and the speech of the voice in part, whereas the speech outward appearance is based on exhaling the silent letter hey, as in the God is in the voice of the man, is called speech. Letters and sounding according to the notion of tag note of signs and foul, but the letters of their punctuation marks. Letter of Oya or Cole's voice emerged with the scream of the liberty of the third degree thickness, for the known as the teeth, through the light of the God of the aura of the wisdom that his voice is heard outside the breast for the soul of the lower ones. Yet the voice of the heaven is not heard below the neshama, but the scream is not strong enough to receive the light of wisdom level of the returning light of God is called the Durber, or speech emerged with the scream of the pew of the fourth degree, and the thickness of the screen is most powerful as it reveals all the light, and is called lips. The light of the NR, some supernal seraph reveals inner and supernal concealed wisdom. Hokumon concealed with the inner light beyond that cannot shine the lower ones. That is heaven that is becomes God, because God cannot receive the liberty of the altruistic altruism, or nevertheless two levels of light of the returnal direction and the returnal light return descend from the altruistic altruism, or heaven, man's heaven converted in his voice and speech of the beyond, and even though the lights of the wisdom and reason. Voices formed in heaven of speech of the man, and the righteous one raised the praise of the to the man. Therefore, the heaven is the God is to send light, where in the constant union of the provided light with the lower ones, the God received the light of the vision, which is called the voice and speech of property of the righteous, to create the pure and destroy the impure, where their voice at the beginning, where there was only language of one speak in the world, Lashon Hadah Hagedeshi, a holy language in Hebrew. Is in English the same word of Lashon means the tongue, and both in the body part means communication. Yes, how does the man ascend with the speech? And his reply, when he first awakens in the morning and opens his eyes, he must bless the greater master. How he has blessed him. This way is done by first. Mercy, and this was done with the prepare the vessel of the water beside them. When they work at night, when they would wash their hands at once, they had blessed the Torah, it would rise to study it. When the rooster crowd previously hurtling the midnight of the Creator was righteous for the Garden of Eden, and it forbidden performing blessing and in the morning unclean hands. He has since the written with the beginning of the man correction must be expressed with a quiet murmur of lips. How can we wake up the spiritually immediately pronouncing the blessing at the top of the voice? After all the blessings must be uttered with the whisper of the first voice of the female mother, and the voice of the force of the mother beyond, elevate the man to beyond, impart or the woman to beyond, impart her altruistic properties. Alright, the Zohar place replies that the first mercy have been corrected as man falls asleep, falls into the level of the light of the parts of our sleep. Then the holy soul, the light was in the spiritual ascends only with the impure spirits of the pre-mortal serpent egotistic properties remain him, and for the sleep continues the 60th part of death. Since the death of the impure property for the very mortal serpents, for the impure of the spiritual egotistic desires does not leave the complete as he wakes up to receive the night of the love, the light of the room of love, the remains of the man, and for fingertips, not only of the man's desire chain, but the influence of the light received above the call of the light of the morning, lighting, awakening of the great holiness light that was present in man before he fell asleep, and then before he fell into the diminished spiritual state and called sleep. The more impure egotistic forces clings the desire, altruistic intention with existing during the sleep. Fingertips constitute the perfect plate for the entire body, with all the desires man's most spiritual degree that can be filled with the light of the wisdom and the desire of the marriage with the help of the screen. Therefore, even after the waking, the beginning of the spiritual ascent, the impure egotistic force does not leave in this place of wishing to perceive the last of these to some of the greater light with which will feel the altruistic human desires. Hence, the head and hands must be washed in order to remove the residual egotistic desires. For having the two vessels need to be prepared, upper one and lower one, that will accept the removed impurity. The upper vessel designates beyond, but the light devours the impure forces away, washing in the fingertips with water with the force of the desire of beyond, expel the impure force of men's egotistic desires from them, and with us the man rids herself. The woman rids herself of the egoism before holy and good. Afterwards, the one can study the Torah and be left with the Creator, and for washing its hand was similar to the praising of the whispered washing of wings of the mother. And when the rooster crowed, the special signal of the angel that is precisely midnight, is where the greatest star of the rule of the day, and the lesser star rule of the night. At the night, therefore, the lesser star of the holy of the Shina Malshida, greater, smaller, clothed, impure force of the feet descend to death. This goes to the 6,000 years up to your final correction. The man constitute the tree of the foundation, good and evil, with the worthy should become good, and purifying him. If not, she turns evil. According to the right of the night of the divided into two parts. The right first refers to the state of the called the unworthy evil, and the second refers to is called the worthy good. The first correction of the man, good part of it is made exactly midnight, and in state with it is called midnight. The furthest of the man received the voice of beyond, but different man ascends for the man and from, or ascends for the woman of the mother beyond, but correct their self within. The result of the strictness of the judgment of women by holy, good and complete avoided evil. That means the strictness and judgment fall onto the impure forces, but the Israel they return mercy. The Yitzchak signified the resurrection of the property of the woman with beyond. For Hebrew words, the rooster or Targanel, or also Gever, and also the Gever man designates the angel of Gabriel, who attends to man in lesser star. The strictness beyond precise wings of the rooster, or Gabriel, through the man receive the voice of beyond. And when Gabriel passes the voice of beyond, and man who has reached all the rooster world, the property of the judgment, and spiritual void of the state, which is called the world, man and woman. Everyone speaks only with this world, with the corrected beyond the properties of mercy. Therefore, the voice of man of her judgment no longer dominates the second half of the night. The voice of beyond claims his place. This is what the rooster of this world heralds the property of the judgment of man and woman. Hence, the rooster crows change the property heard precisely at the midnight. When state changes for the crow means that the man has already been corrected in the voice of the beyond, that the voice was already with man, and then defined at almost the midnight with the marks of the beginning, with the second half of absolute goodness avoid evil. Alright, after a man receiveth the voice of the arm of the righteous man, property of the world, raise the praise, the help, the state of the Torah, and in the state of the midnight, the man prays with the cheerful strictness of the mother, which is written, she rides, also while yet at night, for it is precisely at the night, supernal woman reveals herself in all her splendor. And the actual revelation, man takes place in the Garden of Eden, women take place in the Garden of Eden, as she met with the righteous, with her with her work and saved that, and in the state after midnight the Creator rejoiced with me. With them merriment signifies the fulfillment of the light of wisdom. The Garden of Eden was corrected with the man, and called the Holy Shana, or the Garden of Eden. For the Garden of Eden shall receive the light of wisdom, for rejoice with righteous constitution, praise with her. And the phrase that describes the impurity of the egotistic desires washed away, corrected by the altruistic property of the man, figures that he must exalt the desire, then truly not only regarded the nighttime man extends from the lower degree of sleep to the higher degree of the waking, with the difference between the two states of having been previously receiving on the vital of light mercy called the sleeping, and while the waking signified the reception of the light of wisdom. This is because the impure constantly clings to the man's fingertips, presently to the man correcting and attaining the greater spiritual heights. He obliged to wash his hands, make his desires and intention for the greater sake of the beyond the blessing and appealing with the creator of the reception. Part 172. When a man sleeps, his soul leaves him. As soon as the soul departs from him, the impure spirit replaces it at once and fills it with the hands and defiles it and forbids him with the utter bloodless blessing without washing one's hands. It should be object when man wakes, his soul does not leave him, when the impure forces does not descend upon him, then enters the washroom, forbid him with it from reading even a single word of the Torah until he washes his hands. If he said that it is because the hands are soiled, it is not true how they are soiled. Alright, 173. But woe unto those who do not beware, do not guard the Creator of His honor, do not know the foundation of the world, the create certain spirits that dwell in every cesspool of the world, the spirit relisheth the depravity, the extreme immediately settles on the fingers of the man's hand. Like Rabbi Al-Shalag refrained with the comment with 172 and 173, the Zohar, he merits and will understand the text himself. Alright, now moving on to he who rejoices on holidays.